And so that's the larger picture that I'm hearing. I live in Mill Valley, California, one of the most liberal communities in the country. And when I go to slam poetry events here in Mill Valley, the same thing coming from the boys, and attacks on males and men and boys as having male privilege and male power coming from the females. It reaches only applause. Those are the people who win the slam poetry contest. What's happening here is that everything males have done to sacrifice themselves, to be willing to be warriors, to be willing to earn money, to be willing to take the hazardous jobs, what I call the glass cellar occupations, the garbage collectors, the jobs that are constantly driving the night shifts. The jobs that are the dirty jobs, the unpleasant jobs, are almost all held by males. And the additional money we make to get what I call the death professions bonus has been turned against our fathers. And instead of saying, thank you for making these sacrifices so that you'd earn more money to support the family, we have turned it on its head and said, this reflects discrimination in your favor, the fact that you earn more money, as opposed to understanding that the road to high pay is a toll road. You get high pay because you're willing to serve somebody else, a boss, a company better, not to serve yourself better. You're willing to forfeit your personal power in order to gain more income power to protect your families. Instead of thanking our fathers and our grandfathers for these sacrifices, feminists have gone ahead and focused on this as being more male privilege and male power. So that has left an entire culture of women good and men bad.
Men bad.
Women victims, men perpetrators. And it's left a contradictory message. On the one hand, we hear, I am woman, I am strong. And on the other hand, we hear, I am woman, I've been wronged.
So here's the hard. I see a 27-year-old teacher who's a male rape a 15-year-old girl. He goes to prison for 10 years. Then I see a 27-year-old female teacher. She has an inappropriate relationship with a 15-year-old male. What's that about?
It is about a double standard, and it's about a sort of socially deep understanding that when we think of a woman taking advantage of a male, we think of the male who's a teenager really wanting it anyway, and whereas we think of the female who's a teenager as being raped. We live in a culture where that type of double standard exists, and the punishment for the male is he's seen as a predator, a rapist. Even if that girl is 17 and the male is 21, he can often be seen as a rapist. Because the statutory rape division line is usually around 18 in most states. This is part of our double standard, and so we talk about equality on the one hand, and we talk of I am woman, I am strong, and with the hashtag MeToo movement, I am very glad there was a hashtag MeToo movement. If the hashtag MeToo movement was the beginning of a complex process, meaning that if women stood up and said, here's what's bothering me about the way many men behave, then men say, here is what's bothering me about the dating process, about the sexuality process, about that I live in a culture which says sex is dirty, and then says, oh, by the way, guys, you're expected to initiate the dirt. And if you do it too quickly, you're a date rapist or a sexual harasser. And if you don't do it quickly enough, you're a wimp. And if you don't do it quickly enough, we'll never know that you're even interested in us. So you won't get the woman you want. And by the way, we really go out most of the time with the guys that do take the risks. But each guy that takes that risk is risking the possibility of being prosecuted or persecuted for that. This does not mean that the males have it all right. A lot of men way overreach their bounds, but they need to be met with women who say, no, it's not okay. I'm not interested in being sexual with you. Not women who go to the house of famous and successful men that have bad reputations and then use their power to get their power increased, like in Harvey Weinstein type of thing, going 4 years with relationships with Harvey Weinstein and then getting all the advantages that Harvey Weinstein can bring to a female who is sexual with him, and then having the complaint and the monologue be one way. It's a dialogue.
Let me ask you this question. I have no doubt. I say that fully as a man, fully. The problem is that we have a double standard in a culture where women can sleep their way to the top of a company and not get prosecuted. It's not punished at all. Harvey Weinstein very clearly slept with women and gave them rewards for sleeping with him.
Yes.
They engage in a quid pro quo. The woman over here that sleeps her way to the top of a company engaged in a quid pro quo. Why is she not prosecuted while he is?
We have two things going on. One is we have a clear double standard. And number two is we have a culture which only shares the pain of the female and not the pressure of the male to have to go through so many sacrifices to get power to begin with, and then to feel that that he needs to be willing to give to a woman something when he asks for sex for her, because it's clear in the social exchange that her sex is worth a lot more than his sex is, and therefore he owes her something as a result of being having her sexual quote favors. Even the word favors shows the bias.
The bias.
But the real equivalent of Harvey Weinstein's is not the reversal in that discrimination. The real equivalent of Harvey Weinstein's is females who planned to get a male pregnant and then have child support come from that male while she raised the child on her own. And that was part of her plan or her plot to begin with. There are ugly men in this world, and Harvey Weinstein clearly has a gifted side and an ugly side. Also, there are ugly women in this world who do really terrible things, but we don't have a culture of hashtag #MeToo, of men speaking up about the terrible women that falsely accuse them of doing things with the children that was the equivalent of parental alienation. And then the world is knowing about the 1,000 worst mothers who were only interested in getting money from the father and then were moving off to a different state without regard for their children having contact with their father, and planned all along to marry a man who was very wealthy, so their children would have the protection of his wealth, but never really planned to stay with him to begin with. Only a small fraction of women are like that, but only a small fraction of men are Harvey Weinsteins. But the Harvey Weinsteins are in our face all the time. The most negative women are not in our face. And so we've been walking around in our psyches in a culture of women good, men bad.
Women good, men bad. That's exactly correct.
And that is a toxic attitude toward men.
And that leads to men just throwing their hands up and walking out the door.
Yes. And so
marriage is collapsing because of this. Men
Yes.
are running away.
Yes. Men are both deeply attracted to women. Men need women because the degree to which the man is a traditional man and unable to be a completely emotionally healthy within himself is the degree to which he will be emotionally dependent on women, just like the woman who doesn't take care of herself financially will be attracted to men who will take care of her financially, and neither will get their needs met. That is the tango that we must unravel. Every time a woman complains, we have to understand that a woman and a man have evolved to be in a tango where the woman is attract the man and then resist until she finds out whether he's the right man completely, and until she discovers how he handles no's, which is one of the reasons why women say no even when they are interested, because they want to find out how a man handles no's. Because if a man handles no's badly, that gives them a signal to get out. And if the man handles no's well, that gives them a signal and permission to go to that next level. So there's a purpose for the man initiating and the woman saying no for a while and backing off. And there's lots of purposes. That's just one of them. But the point there is, if we're going to change that dynamic between men and women, that entire tango needs to be changed. And when that entire tango needs to be changed, we need to hear how women are hurt and hear how men are hurt. When I hear the fact that it's not just women that are hurt this way and men that are hurt that way, it is some women hurt this way and some women feel the opposite of that. And there's some men that feel this way and some men that feel the opposite of that. The women's movement has been not just a sexist movement. It's been a movement that has not acknowledged conservative women nearly enough. So the feminist movement has been a movement about liberal women and the way liberal women feel. It has not been a movement about the way conservative women feel, about the way Christian women feel. What we need is every part of the male-female movement to be willing to represent the feminist perspective and more conservative women's perspectives, liberal men's perspectives and more conservative men's perspectives. No movement on gender can be a balanced, loving movement unless it represents all four of those perspectives. What we have done to this point in history is take a magnifying glass to women's experience of powerlessness and women's experience of male power. But no one has taken a magnifying glass to the male experience of powerlessness and the male experience of female power, the male experience of walking around at the age of 14 with his testosterone running wild and wanting to have sex with every female who's 2/3 of the way attractive or 1/3 of the way attractive in his class, and having to hold off from doing so because he knows that if he reaches out and touches her or kisses her, does what he feels like doing, he'll be prosecuted or shamed. That's just a fraction of the male experience of powerlessness that he feels before women. And that powerlessness is being flaunted before him every day in commercials and on TV and in every way, and no outlet for the male feelings. We condemn men for not expressing their feelings, and we condemn them when they express their feelings.